r/AskReddit, what's the craziest crime you or somebody in your family has committed? Last year my psychotic mother burned down my childhood home, that her, my dad, my niece, my sibling, and sibling's partner lived in, because she believed my dad was cheating on her, despite no evidence, and this was not the first time she accused my dad of cheating with no evidence. Effectively, she destroyed everything we had built and kept in that home, along with my dad's dog and my sister's cat. Cat was burned up, so never found, but the dog died of asphyxiation in my niece's room under her bed. Then after the fire, in what I can only construe as an act of desperation, she went to my bank and stole all of the money out of my accounts because she was secondary on the accounts. I was working on changing banks, but my new bank had yet to finalize the creation of my new account. Moral of the story is take your parents off your bank accounts when you turn 18. She's now serving time in a county jail for the arson because she took a plea deal and got a reduced sentence, which I still believe was utter crap. She played the poor old lady act to the judge and he took pity on her that she did not deserve. This is the woman who eviscerated my self-esteem and made my life hell ever since I was born. She was toxic and abusive, never told me the truth about anything, and is a greedy, manipulative person. I feel no shame in saying that I do not care about her. She's lost any right to my love and respect. My cousin's husband got caught on a predator chaser's live stream trying to kidnap a 14-year-old boy. My father committed one of the first computer crimes in the 90s. A ton of files were corrupted due to a code he created because they fired him. FBI invaded our home and arrested him, was sent to federal prison for 4 years, which was interesting because there was never a crime committed of its nature before. They made a forensics file episode about it. Edit. If anyone is curious, the company was Omega. My uncle used to dress up with a group of friends as DEA agents in the 80s and raid crack houses, only to take the drugs and consume them. Twin brothers boosted a car and robbed the 711 like 1/2 mile from house, ditched car 10 houses from theirs. How were they caught? Officers respond to alarm triggered by clerk. Officer, got an alarm here, what happened? Clerk, Tim and Tom came in and robbed the store. Officer, how do you know it was these guys? Clerk, they are 6 feet 4 inches twins who come in every day. I know their shape and voice. The car 911 operator, 911 what is your emergency? Neighbor, was watching TV and 2 guys park a car in front of my house. One guy got out with like a Windex bottle and cleaned all the door handles and door areas, then opened door and the other guy took the stuff and cleaned the inside areas. Then they ran off up the street. Dispatch, can you describe the 2 individuals? Neighbor, well, it was Tim and Tom, the twins that live up the street from me. They're like 6 feet 4 inches and they are twins. My brother got completely inebriated one night and stupidly drove home. He woke up early in the morning to the sound of a baby crying. He looked around and noticed he didn't recognize the house. He quickly got up and walked outside to his car halfway in the driveway/street and still running. Got in his car and drove away as quickly as he could. Turns out it was some random house about 5-10 minutes away from our actual house. He never knew whose house it was and never got caught. He also slowed down his drinking after that. My mom set a dude on fire. When I was young I had a babysitter, named Chris. He was the uncle of my 2 best friends, sisters Abby and Becca. He was also abusive. He liked to do things to me in front of them, make them listen to my cry and scream. Nothing physical, I should mention, more psychological. Anyway, I didn't tell anyone about it, and in fact only learned this story about 2 years ago, but it turns out that my best friends did. They told my mom and she was pissed. Soon after that there's a party at my friend's parents' house. My mom goes and sees Chris. He's all nice to her. They're outside in the backyard. She starts kinda joking around, roughhousing, messing with him. She grabs some lighter fluid and sprays some on him. Ha ha ha, just a joke. She lights a match. Ha, you wouldn't do it, would you? And she lights him on fire. According to my mom, he was put out quickly so he was fine. But she told him that's what it's like when you're scared for your life. And then she left. Apparently he flew back to Florida the next day. Back in the mid-90s, I lived in a shared rented house in the north of England with 4 ex-schoolmates. It was a bit of a drugs den, right next to the bus station, so everyone called in on their way into town for a cup of tea and a spliff, and same again on the way out, so it was always rammed. Lots of acid and mushrooms on weekends. People crashing everywhere. One morning, me and my girlfriend were woken up by the police coming into my bedroom room, illegally. They claimed to have pushed the door and it swung open, and telling us all to gather in the front room. I had my skinning up box next to the bed. I assumed the police were there for drugs or course, so I hid my stash before I came down. So we're all sat in the lounge hungover and the policeman says so. Who knows about the credit card? We all just went wah, because it wasn't what we were expecting, except one of my housemates stands up and says no one else knows anything, it's me, and goes off with the police. Turns out, a bank card had been delivered for a previous tenant, and then shortly after a new PIN. My housemate had taken it, and emptied the account of a load of cash, and what had he bought with his stolen cash? A gecko, in a big fancy glass cabinet. He was struggling to pay his rent. We all were, but here was this massive green mother sat sunning itself in our front room. All 6 or so of us just sat and looked at it as he was taken away. My wife's cousin was arrested for the manufacturing of meth 3 times and was sentenced to life. He, his mom, and dad all cooked meth and supplied basically the entire area. The worst part is that during his last arrest he was taking the fall for his parents. They were in large part why our small sleazy little trash heap of a town was one of the top 5 for meth in the United States at the time. My parents' horse got loose, and somebody hit and killed it. The horse disposal people wanted some relatively reasonable amount of money to come pick up the carcass, but my parents were like fuck that, hey, /you/Hendergle, load that shit up on the flatbed and find somewhere to dump it. Me, okay, sure, pops, calls stoner friend. Me, hey, want to go dump a horse somewhere? Stoner friend, sure, I have nachos. Me, cool, stoner friend, cool. So stoner friend and I got even more stoned than usual and took my parents' flatbed truck out and tried to winch the horse up onto it. Turns out you really can't winch a dead horse onto a flatbed. It's not the winching that's the problem so much as the 5 feet lift up to the edge. We fucked up a lot of that horse trying, though. Attempt number 2, we went home and built a big ass ramp out of plywood and 4x4s. It took most of a day and half a dime bag of weed. We argued a lot about whether or not we should bevel the part of the 4x4s that touched the ground. Final decision, neither of us knew how to do that, so we opted for no bevel. Back at the horse, we wrapped the winch line around the head this time. Fun fact, steel cable looped around a horse head in a slipknot arrangement is a good way to enact a famous scene from The Godfather. We didn't quite decapitate Mr. Gooseberry, long may he gallop in the heavenly fields, but it wasn't pretty. Nothing about a dead horse is pretty, but that bit in particular was remarkably not pretty. We decided to go with our original idea, lash the front hooves together with rope. Small problem, we'd cut the rope at some point, neither of us could remember why, or who did it, but nothing for it, we had to go home. Finding more rope required smoking half a joint, which I think is quite reasonable given the task we were set to. Back at the horse again, our engineering marvel worked. We had some initial worry that we would pull one or both of the horse's forelegs out of its socket, but apparently dead horse sinew has quite a bit of tensile strength. We used tie-down straps to lash the horse and ramp to the flatbed, initiating a discussion about why we hadn't used those in place of rope, leading to an argument over whether or not that would have worked, leading to an awkward hostile silence as we drove around the ass end of South Dakota looking for a place where we could dump a dead horse. I'm sure there were many places one could dump a dead horse in the middle of rural South Dakota. Strangely enough, though, we were both feeling a little paranoid. Every car that passed us was a plainclothes cop car. Every person standing out in their field was heading straight to their house to report us as soon as we went around the bend. Finally, we found a field in the Black Hills National Forest that looked like a good spot. It had trees, which we thought the horse would like, and there was a nice parking area next to a snowmobile trailhead. Goose had never liked snowmobiles, so the idea of his skeletal carcass scaring the shit out of some ski-doer coming off the trail seemed like something that would have appealed to the old fella. We backed the truck a little ways into the ferns next to the trail, then we used a come along to pull the dead horse off the flatbed. About a mile into the way home, stoner friend said, "Does your horse have tattoos?" I was like, "It's a horse, not a fucking chief petty officer in the Merchant Marine. Why would it have fucking tattoos?" Well, apparently some horses have tattoos, according to stoner friend. It's how they identify them if they're stolen. Note: subsequent research revealed that this was usually only something done with thoroughbreds, which our horse was definitely not. Back at the horse again. I think they put them on the lip, inside, says Stoner Friend. Have you ever pulled back the lip of a dead horse to look for tattoos? Worst, never have I. My father, when I was still very young, used a fake name and pretended to be a wedding planner for a young couple. That young couple hired him, since he seemed trustworthy and is an excellent liar, giving him access to their savings for wedding supplies and such that would be needed. Instead, he stole all of the money out of their account and then ran away with it. As far as I am aware, he was never caught and the money was never returned to them. The worst part is that the poor couple never even got their wedding and had almost nothing left afterwards. In college we got a new printer and printed off a bunch of fairly convincing $20 bills, roughed them up and used them at a bunch of fast food restaurants. Didn't realize how dumb it was until years later. Oh, so my great aunt disappeared off the face of the earth after her daughter's wedding and nobody had any clue what happened. Foul play wasn't suspected or anything, however her shotgun was missing. Well, like a month ago we found out she died last year. She had apparently skipped jury duty to go to the wedding, and instead of doing anything logical she straight up ran away and lived in hiding in a backwoods town in Washington. No letters or anything, she just decided that the most effective way to get around jury duty to go to a wedding was to live in hiding for 30 years. Edit. Grammatical errors. Cousin was taking care of a woman in coma. He raped her. Little he knew was that her parents had set a webcam to check regularly if she would wake up. He deserved every single day he spends in prison. My sister shoplifts uncontrollably. She shoplifts everything everywhere she goes. Her daughter just turned 1 and she has stolen every bit of formula her daughter ever used. It's insane she's never been caught. My uncle stole one of those oil candles from our table at a Hard Rock cafe once. When we got outside he pulled it from his jacket with it still lit. I used to drive for my weed dealer. I was a new buyer but I never asked questions and was cool with him. His car broke down and asked if anyone could drive him. I said I would, and he liked that. I have my back windows tinted but not my front windows. I'd pick him up and we'd drive almost all day. It was pretty chill. He's give me free weed and pay me $250 a day. I still worked my part-time delivery job, so I was very happy. He got his car fixed and didn't need me to drive him around anymore, which is fine, considering his ex snitched in him and he got busted a couple weeks later. My grandpa wouldn't obey the train warnings. He would try and beat the train rather than wait. First time he got hit in his new convertible on the way to prom with my grandma, had barely started on the payments and car was totaled. Luckily they were both okay. Second time was a little less reckless but still dumb. He was driving a semi and it broke down on the tracks. He kept trying to get the tractor trailer to start, rather than lose his rig and load. Semi got hit by the train, total loss, and fucked up his back. My dad's cousin erased all family member names from a property deed except for his father's. The paperwork had been water damaged, so there was no easy way to tell what should have been there. Family lore says that he also paid off some local politicians/office workers to make the new deed stand. My friend got blackout drunk and stole a bulldozer that had the keys left in it. He turned it on and obviously didn't know how to drive it, so he just ended up making the scoopy part go up and down for a bit before the cops came. They actually let him go too. A distant cousin got her terminally ill father to give her power of attorney and then stole all of his money so she wouldn't have to split it with her brother. *Edit. Don't worry, she did go to jail as her rush to clean him out involved a lot of fraud and forgery. *Edit too. Man, it is slightly depressing how many of you have similar stories. What's up with people? You've made it through the whole video. If you enjoyed it, consider subscribing for more videos every day. I upload 2 videos every single day.